I'm trying to come up with like the Crocodile Dundee style line that he could have had in the middle of that, but it's it's escaping me right now.
That's not a penalty. This is a penalty.
Welcome to My God a Podcast. I'm Jim Wood. In this episode, John Powell and I review Georgia's 13-12 win on the road at Kentucky. We talk about our experiences on Saturday and what stood out to us during the game. As always, remember to check out the newly redesigned MyGottaPodcast.com to see our latest merch. And you can follow us on social media at MyGottaPodcast. Finally, if you need help with your website or your online presence, head over to workingwebmedia.com/dogs. Now, let's join the conversation in progress.
I'm half asleep from not waking up, kind of like Georgia was.
Are we are we recording? I think we're recording.
Oh man,
Uh, hey, we finally get to say it this season, just as we predicted.
man, exactly. I don't know that we could have drawn it up any closer.
Yeah. I basically I that was a text conversation I had with my sister. I can't remember at what point, but she was like, "You guys kept getting it right. You didn't get it right this week." I was like, "It was bound to happen eventually."
Yeah, we can't always roll up. We can't always roll up against Kentucky and throw up a 51-13 score like we did last year.
Yeah. Yeah. I was having a great day leading up on Saturday until the stressful evening. Um, I will say though, she has vetoed us ever doing what we did throughout the day. Again, she was like, "Yeah, we can't do that again." So
Like, what did you guys? Oh, you went to the baseball game,
we went.
right?
Yeah, we did. We ended up going to the Charlotte Knights game. So we basically said, what did we say? We declared that we were doing a triathlon. We went for a run in the morning.
Hey,
Like together, a couple's run outside, which we don't usually do. It was nice. And
see, I
then
blame you, Jim.
I know, see, that's what, oh, I've got more. I did other bad things. So there was that. Then we went to the baseball game and then we came. So we were saying it was like our triathlon between the run, the Charlotte Knights baseball game, and then the Georgia game. So yeah, so Kim said we can't do that again. But it was fun. It was fun up until I guess the game, well, whatever. It's fun. But it's a stressful night, watching that. So yeah, so she's banned that going forward. But like I was texting you, the baseball game was crazy. Who knew that Tuki Toussaint and Mike Soroka were on the Charlotte Knights, not me. So anyway,
Yeah, are they like a good team? I guess. I mean,
I mean they won 10-0 over the Jumbo Shrimp. So
yeah. It's. I feel like that if you have those guys on your team, they must be pretty good.
yeah,
I
they
don't
were
remember. Are they a triple A or are they a double A? Like what? I don't remember.
yeah they're the White Sox AAA.
Okay, triple A.
So
Okay, so this is basically like the guys that they could call upon
correct.
if someone got hurt kind of stuff.
Yep. They had some like designated for assignment guys playing in the
Yeah,
game.
yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah. So at any rate,
Interesting.
but yeah, but then yeah, then we got home and we did do the porch. So we did the outdoor viewing on the porch. Kim and I and Lily sat out there for the whole game. Lit the fire at halftime, which who knows, maybe that lit the fire under the team. I don't know. Uh, we did some s'mores, um, and I had a nightcap uh, bourbon when the game was over. So
Speaking of s'mores, how do you guys do s'mores? How does the Wood Clan does the Wood Clan have a specific repertoire for s'moring?
we're basic. So just the graham, although we got some gluten-free grahams for Kim. She did not like them. So we need, if anyone has gluten-free graham cracker recommendations, let me know. Um,
Is
Lily and
she gluten
I,
free? I didn't know that.
yeah, Kim is gluten-free. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Lily and I are not. So we had the standard. Yeah. So we just did that Hershey, plain old Hershey chocolate and marshmallow. Now I've seen all kinds of like TikToks and stuff lately. And I actually mentioned to Kim, like, what if we try one of those? Cause I saw one that It was like take a Reese's peanut butter cup and like
That's
dip it.
exactly what I was just about to ask.
Okay, and then you dip it in peanut butter fluff, and then
Oh no, I don't know about that
that's what I
now.
saw. I saw that
Okay.
on somewhere, which seemed like kind of outrageous. So
That is outrageous.
yeah,
I was just thinking like replace the peanut butter cup with the the chocolate
yeah,
with
yeah, yeah,
chocolate bar piece.
yeah.
That's as exciting as exotic as I've gotten. I'm sure that you can
Okay,
get even more exotic.
yeah, yeah. Okay, all right. Well, I know you guys had a great weekend in the Pal household too.
Yeah. Yeah, we wife was out of town, so um yeah, we were just hanging out Saturday. What did we do Saturday? Oh, my daughter had a football game that she was cheering at, so we had to go and do that. Carter's flag football game got preemptively canceled, which
Hmm,
I was glad about, but like at the end of the day, like it didn't really rain. The weather wasn't nearly as a factor as I thought it was going to be this
gotcha.
weekend. Because like it was constantly raining, but it was like that annoying like spitting rain. It
Mm,
wasn't like it never like downpoured, which I was kind of frustrated with because I feel like the grass really needs it. Like one of those like super dad things,
super
like
dad comment.
ah,
Really need this rain.
yeah, I really need this rain. Yeah, mostly because I don't want to pay to water the lawn.
Uh,
Um, but uh, But yes, so Saturday we did that. Made got up, made pancakes. I actually, speaking of TikTok recipes,
mm,
we did a TikTok recipe for pancakes. Normally we do the Daniel Smith, one third of the Smith Bros. Um, he has a great recipe for buttermilk pancakes. Normally I roll with that as the go-to. However, the simplicity of the TikTok pancakes, ice cream pancakes, is pretty amazing.
mm.
Have you ever seen this or heard about this?
No, I mean I saw the pictures of your pancakes that you sent or posted or
Yes.
both, and they looked amazing.
They were really good. Um, I really wanted to go exotic, but we went super basic on this one. For the first time around. I think next time I'm gonna do some a little bit different.
Mm.
I had bought ice cream a few days prior, but like somebody in the household ate most of the ice cream, so I didn't have nearly as much ice cream, so it was a little bit doctored.
Okay.
But the idea is that you take melted ice cream and you mix it with self-rising flour,
Mm.
and you have a two ingredient pancake mix.
Got it. Interesting.
Yeah, yeah, it is interesting, especially as someone that makes like fairly involved pancakes. It is definitely foreign to just do two things.
Right. Right.
But as the father of a 7-year old that really likes to cook and bake and stuff, having a two ingredient project was super great.
Yeah. Yeah. Nice. Nice. I mean, they look
Um,
fantastic. So
yeah, it turned out really nice.
cool.
Definitely didn't use as much ice cream. I could have used more ice cream, but it worked out fine.
Okay. Okay.
Um, but yeah, then so normally I do my run in the morning, but since we had to get up and we had pancakes and had the cheering that we had to go to, which took us to the other side of town,
Mm.
um, I did not do the run this morning, or that morning.
Yeah.
Uh, but then so you and I messaged each other at one point. You were like, this game is like so late, and it definitely felt like it. You're like, okay, all right, I'm ready to go. Like, let's get this party started. Oh crap, we have another 3 hours.
Yeah. I mean, I'm like again, like with our day, like we went for a run, we went to an entire baseball game, we got home, and it was like I still have to wait like 3 hours. Like, what is going on?
Yeah, in that context, it was a little crazy that you
Ah,
you saw a whole baseball game.
yeah, like I was like exhausted. I mean, I laid down, took a nap because the other thing, I turned on the Florida Texas A&M game, and I was like, when I saw the weather delay, I was like, well, our game's not going to start on time. So I knew that was going to happen. So yeah, I took a nap, and then I think I woke up from that, and then is when I texted you like, God, like, is this game are we ever going to kick off? Like, what is going on? So yeah,
Yeah. And shout out to British Bulldog
yeah,
in our WhatsApp chat. He was like this is not ideal.
yeah. Oh man.
All you Euro dogs are true Georgia fans, having to stay up until 3, 4 in the morning
Yeah.
watching the Bulldogs play.
Yeah, for sure. Um, Especially when you're watching what you watched. Although I will say,
Yes.
as maybe as we transitioned into the game, I guess, um, the defense was lights out. The defense, maybe lights out is too strong, but the defense had a good game. I do feel like this is an elite defense. Um, still have not given up a touchdown on the season. So,
Yeah.
I mean, they won that game.
Yeah. Defense defense did more than enough to get the job done. I mean, anytime you give up 12 points on an SEC opponent, um, that's a good day at the office. If I'd have told you before the game, hey Jim, we're only going to give up 12 points, how would you
Oh,
think that the game would go?
right. Would have thought it was going to go the way I thought it was going to go.
Right.
You know, like,
Yeah, we gave up 12 points and zero touchdowns.
yeah, I mean, pretty good. Pretty good.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh,
You'd say that that probably would have been a similar score line to last year
yeah, I mean, I
when
feel
we won
like,
51-13.
yeah, yeah, seriously. I mean, and, you know, we had us like in the 30s, a lot to a little. That would,
Hmm.
I would have thought it would have been something like that. I would have thought we would have been not far from that. So,
Yeah, but Jim, I think I messaged you about this, but like now Kentucky is like the new South Carolina. Because we used to play South Carolina super close. And it felt like going on the road to South Carolina was always a tough game. Since they are not on the schedule, I guess that Kentucky's the new South Carolina because I don't know, man. We should have looked at the exact results from all of our trips in the recent time period
yeah.
of what it's like going to Lexington. And that probably should have been a better clue as to what we were walking into.
Yeah, and I feel like there were like clues and things that we even said in the preview, but didn't like sway us from being like 30-6 or whatever. It was like, um, I mean,
Yeah.
I said something along the lines of there's a world where this is one of those games where Kirby Smart's just trying to get out of Lexington, shut it down. But I thought that was going to be like not. I didn't think there were. I didn't think that was going to be a come from behind win like that. I didn't see that in the cards, but I guess the other thing is too, and I know I texted you this, like there were also some things that I noticed like while we were talking when I was looking at all the stats and everything, and I was like, wait a minute, like this can't be right. And so I just kind of like dismissed it and let it go. So I need to be better about that. But I don't know. I think we were kind of in line with most people thought it was going to be, the way we thought it was going to be. I mean, I don't know, man. Like we didn't. I don't even know really what to say. Like we weren't ready to go from the beginning, maybe, or something like offensively. Like we eventually woke up to some extent, but um everything just looked off. Like Beck looked off. Again, like give their defense credit. I mean, I think that is a good. I think their defense is good. The other thing too, like we were, I think basing a lot of it off of their last game against South Carolina. I mean, their offense did give up a touchdown to South Carolina too. Like one of those touchdowns that South Carolina scored against Kentucky was a pick six. Um, so I don't know. I think the defense was pretty good. Deon Walker is really good on the defensive line, and we knew that, but they were very disruptive through our offensive line and made Beck uncomfortable all night.
Yeah. Stacy and I are not on speaking terms right now, Jim. Um,
Yeah.
he's not returning my phone calls and I'm not taking his excuses. Yeah, offensive line, I feel like didn't do us any favors. The the wide receiver core. I mean, you and I were talking about this. Like I didn't even realize that Humphreys was out there.
Hmm. Yeah.
And we were like, what happened to Lawson Lucky, who seemed to really like get going during Clemson?
Yeah.
What happened to all of these guys that seemed like that they were poised for, having breakout seasons and stuff?
Yeah.
What happened to the highly touted tight end from Stanford, who frankly didn't play all that great.
Yeah, I mean
Um,
I didn't see him after the first quarter because he missed he struggled with his blocking, and I didn't see him go back in after that. I could have missed it, but I didn't see it.
yeah, I mean, you said it that that's what you were telling me was like everybody that is doing bad blocking wise gets is getting yanked.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, and
We
like,
saw Nate Frazier, even Nate Frazier, he had
yeah.
been Mr. Reliable thus far this season. Even he was messing up. I felt like that ETN at times was good, but when you kind of walked back, I guess I thought that in my head ETN did much better than when I kind of rewatched everything and rewatched some of the key moments and stuff like that. Like
Hmm.
there were times when he was choosing the wrong direction on plays. It
Yeah.
just it seemed like that the coaches put the players in positions to succeed and they still didn't. It was just a really frustrating. It was a frustrating evening. Um, and I think that the return of the Kirby rage stroke um, was also kind of telling as well. And I think that wasn't there some clues on his pregame speech um,
Oh, were there
as
like
well?
kind of like the South Carolina when he was like, "We're not ready
Yeah,
to play," kind of
we're
thing.
not ready. Yeah, exactly.
We need.
After the game, he was like, I don't think that the kids heard our message,
I did
and
hear him say that. Yeah.
that kind of that tracks basically, right? Like
Yeah.
maybe they thought that they were going to walk all over these guys, and they were looking past them, trying to get to the bye week. By and large, it was probably the worst thing that could possibly have happened. I guess I guess it's not entirely because I do feel like that you and I talked about the manufactured adversity, right? Like the whole concept of manufactured adversity.
Yeah.
But like I felt like that weren't really trying as hard as we possibly could have to win that game as bigger as we did. Like it's almost like I hesitate to say that Kirby wanted it to be that way,
Mm.
but you didn't see like I don't know how to describe it, man. Like there wasn't a whole lot of like exotic there weren't a whole lot of exotic play calls, I feel like, that we were doing. There wasn't a whole lot of you hear the phrase like scheming guys open. Like you didn't see a whole lot of that. So I feel like that to a certain extent we just kind of had a game plan and we were going to be like, listen, this is what we're going to do. This is what we should be able to do.
Yeah.
And we're going to do it even if it doesn't work because you guys should be good enough to do this game plan.
Yeah.
And we just never deviated. You used the word Bobo just saw something on tape and just never deviated from it.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Welcome to
This,
my game day text message thoughts that I sent to John.
yeah, yeah. I mean,
Uh,
um,
no, yeah. No,
but you go back and you look like this is what we've grown to experience when we go to Lexington. I mean, like
yeah.
I've alluded to it a couple of times, but last several trips to Lexington have been very close games. Previous trip in November of 2022, which was the all-world team
Yeah.
headed by Monken. Bobo wasn't the offensive coordinator then.
Right.
It was a 16-6 victory against Kentucky in Lexington, an undefeated Georgia team, one of the best teams in college football history.
Yeah.
Still only won 16-6 against Kentucky. Go back to 2020, again, 14-3. That team was pretty good too.
Yeah.
Um, 2018 in Lexington was the only game in recent memory that was a blowout. It was 34-17. Then you go back to 2016, Kirby's first year. We won 27-24.
Yeah. So I agree. I will say to an extent. So one thing I would definitely shout out to Coach Hayes. Go check out his film breakdowns of the game. So the only thing I hesitate is like there were definitely plays where the guys were open, so you could say they were schemed open or they got open or whatever. And
There
either
was hesitation.
there was hesitation, so like either Beck didn't throw to the open guy, or like by decision, or he missed them, or also though there was pressure, like someone was up in his face because someone got through the line. Like
Mhm.
yeah, there were times where Kentucky's in a 3-man rush and we couldn't hold it. You've got a defender right in Beck's face, so that kind of stuff can't happen. So to that extent, like I feel like we had open receivers downfield, and we connected on some big pass plays. I mean, Beck made that one like ridiculous throw to Dylan Bell over the middle. Like when he was, then there was another one. There's a couple of downfield shots that he did take like over the middle of the field that were fantastic throws. Um, and there were other plays where that was there, but it didn't happen. So I don't know.
Yeah,
It's
the one
tough.
where he had Dylan Bell wide open, that
Yeah.
I don't remember what down it was, but I remember the announcers were talking about like he's got to hit this play. Like you've got to. He normally hits this play. You do it 100 times, he probably completes it. 90% of the time.
Yeah. Yeah. So that was
Um,
that was that was frustrating. And I agree on ETN. The other thing I'll say on ETN, I think he ran the ball well. I'd like to see him. I mean, he had a couple of drops, so I'll just say that.
yep, yep.
One of them, was a low ball again because there's a rusher right in Beck's face. But the one that sticks out in my mind was, I believe it was a third down, like inside the red zone, and we ended up having to kick a field goal. He dropped it. Maybe he doesn't get the
Mhm.
first down if he catches it, but I don't know. Maybe it would have been fourth and short. Maybe we go for it. Who knows? Um, so that one was tough. But also your questions, though, I will say on like where is this guy? Like Colby Young, we had a great, pitch and catch to him, back shoulder fade for a first down in the game. Like, where is that? Like we didn't see that either. So definitely like agreeing with you as well there.
Yeah, there's definitely question marks on, why we didn't see certain players. I continue to ask the question about, Anthony Evans.
Yeah.
Like, I, the Anthony Evans situation is probably the most puzzling, especially when things clearly aren't clicking. Like, throw something out there, like give him a shot. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
and I think he said that he was out there. I haven't looked at the participation numbers or anything like that, but trying to forget this game, but survive in advance,
Right.
kind of situation. Let's move on.
Right.
I feel like that this is going to be something to watch moving forward, but again, I know that the manufactured adversity is kind of a joke that we made up, but I don't know, man. It's kind of like a lot of conspiracy theories out there. Like there's a lot of smoke out there because
Right.
none of it makes any sense. None of it makes any dang sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
But what I will say is that okay, so we had our game plan. We rolled out there. You can even look at the predicted, the win probability numbers. You know, 0 to 3 in the first quarter. It's 3 to 3, 3 to 3 in the second quarter. So it's 6-3 at halftime, right?
Hmm.
Well, we still had a pretty big percentage probability of winning, even at halftime, losing by 3 points.
Yeah.
What I'll say about that is that as that time gets shorter and shorter and shorter, um, I feel like that Beck, I don't know, maybe it's overthinking, but I feel like that when he realizes that the game is getting smaller and smaller and smaller, his ability to make things happen becomes smaller and smaller and smaller because in his head, he has been drilled to not turn the ball over. And so he's less willing to take those risks and to put the ball into what, potentially harm's
Arms
way.
way. Yeah.
Whereas someone like Stetson, who is quite known for putting the ball into tight spots, into risky
Yeah.
situations, and
Say in harm's way.
it turned out to be, successful, right? Like you and I've joked like someone that does that like turns out to be a gunslinger or whatever,
Hmm.
or he's got a lot of moxie.
Right.
Well, the opposite end of that spectrum in Kirby Smart's world is not so great. So,
Yeah.
um, anyway, in those tight games, I feel like that in this tight game, I felt like that the window of, you know, the window of opportunity was a lot smaller for him just because he knew how big the moment was. And I don't want to say that was his mentality, but it certainly feels that way based on watching him hesitate and hesitate, hesitate, and then take a check down.
I will say though, at the end of the game, when it came down with, where you've got to we're trying to keep from giving them the ball back, which they eventually did get it back with what, 9 seconds. But on that last drive, I was actually pretty surprised how much we threw on that drive, especially the big pass play to Lovett. And that was a strike, and that was a huge play. Stay in bounds. I think we definitely need to dissect the clock rules more because I think remember we were texting about that. Like he went out of bounds. It was before 2 minutes, so I think the clock runs anyway. But at any rate, go down in bounds always. But like that was a huge throw. And then we threw to Delp as well on the play where he the fortuitous fumble forward that got us a first down. That was kind of crazy. Which was the right call, by the way. So he did do that late. Also, though, you mentioned the win probability. I mean, if you look at, I know you like to look at the ESPN GameCast win probability. It never dropped below 50% for Georgia. Like that entire game, it never goes Kentucky's way on the probability. They never
Yeah.
had more than 50. It never even got to 50. I think the lowest was like 51 something. Which is kind of how I felt. Like I was
Yeah.
frustrated, but it wasn't like we're gonna lose. I don't know, you know. And I think
Yeah,
all,
you felt that they were gonna figure it out, which is,
yeah,
you know, that pedigree that Kirby comes from. Like these are the kind of games that Nick Saban and Alabama like always won, right? Like
yep,
even when they were on the ropes, you knew that they were gonna figure out something. And that's kind of how Kirby Smart's program has taken, and that's the difference between, what we as fans have been used to in the past. Like we talked about, I think a lot more than a handful of us have probably mentioned, like if Kirby Smart's not here, or if this was Mark Richt or Donnan or whatever, like
yeah,
those are the games that we're used to losing
yeah. We
back in
lose.
the day.
Yeah, yeah,
The Munsoning in us uh, felt that way.
yeah,
But you, for whatever reason, call it swagger, call it the Kirby Smart effect, whatever. You just felt like we were gonna pull it out.
yeah.
I watched a TikTok of someone that put that videoed their dad. Like this was my husband watching the Kentucky versus Georgia game, and and then you go to the comment section and they're like, "How did you get in my house?" Like this is every Georgia fan over the weekend, and it was like the dad was like yelling at the screen, like,
Uh, yeah. I need to talk to some people about this. The only downside of like us doing our back porch game viewing, especially in a game like this, is like I yell at the TV. I know our neighbors behind us are Tennessee fans. I know they're like, oh, Jim's watching the game again. So I don't
yes, yeah.
know.
Oh man.
I
What was it? What was it? What was it that you and I were messaging each other for? Um, I said, I think it was like not me yelling at the TV, and you're like, same. I
yeah.
was yelling at it for the same thing. I don't even remember what it was.
Oh man. Um, One thing I do want to call out, kudos to Branson Robinson for his only touchdown of the game. He struggled in the opener. And that was a big boy run in a moment where we needed it, where we had to score. We had to get a touchdown. And he ran through a couple of defenders to score that touchdown. So that was much needed. Honestly, kind of reminded me of Richard Samuel running against Florida in his last season at Georgia, or second to last season at Georgia. In the cocktail party, kind of reminded me of that. Sometimes you need the guy with that mentality to get in there and do that. So love to see that from him.
Yeah, it was. I think that we did enough. I'm just I don't know what the I'm not really sure what was going on in that game other than it's Kentucky on the road.
Yeah, well, the defense was elite. Let's talk about the Georgia defense for a minute. The thing that was interesting to me and something else that I texted to my dad during the game was just like we were we were constantly getting to Vandegrift, right? Like we were getting to him, we were getting in his face. But sometimes it was to our detriment because Brock Vandegrift has some wheels. He can run, and he ran by us a few times where we got our rush got so far afield into the backfield that he made us pay for it. There was a point in the game where I was almost like, I wonder if we should sit back more and and like contain and not let him break contain because I'm not as worried about him throwing. Um, obviously I don't know what I'm talking about because we caused forced some fumbles and got to him had some really huge um, sacks that ultimately were probably the difference in the game. So don't listen to me. But I don't know. It felt odd. Like it. There were times where it felt like they were letting us, you know, get to him so that they could go around that. But the pressure was real in this game. We hit the over on coaches over under on sacks for the first time. So they did show you. They did show you, John.
They did show me. Yeah, I don't. I found the thing that we were yelling about. It was the fumble. It was the fumble that that the refs didn't blow the whistle on. Which,
Oh,
all right, let's. I'll use that as a segue. So you and I were texting, and I was like, I am literally screaming at the TV, get the ball, get the ball, get the ball, because
mm.
nobody. There was a fumble that happened. I can't remember what it was. I guess it was like a, was it
Oh, it was an incomplete pass, but it
correct?
was Vandegrift. It was like a tip ball, like Stackhouse maybe, or somebody tipped it and it went straight up. That's the
Right,
play we're talking about, right? Yeah. Okay.
correct. But the referees didn't blow the whistle. So
Yes.
the
Yeah.
whistle wasn't blown dead. So that means that if the referee didn't blow the whistle, it is a live ball, right?
Right. Right.
So even if it gets reviewed or whatever, like if the ref doesn't blow the whistle, like that's the kind of game that we were experiencing, both from a mentality standpoint and from an officiating standpoint. The
Hmm.
officials had an abysmal day today. And I
Yeah.
felt like that wasn't the only play where they were very late on the whistle and the decisions were super delayed. I mean, shoot, at the end of the game, they were putting time on the clock. Like there was that whole time. Like even Stoops was like, "What the
Yeah. Yeah. The end of the game was wild. I mean, honestly, the whole thing started. I mean, there was like a fight on the first punt, basically. Which I mean, frankly, that should have been offsetting penalties. I mean, Lovett should have got a flag too. I'll admit that. Like, I can admit when I see wrong things that go Georgia way. That
Yeah,
happened.
Lovett suplexed the guy twice.
Yeah, yeah, and it was like two flags on Kentucky. That's why they were at their like 1 yard line. So that was interesting. They missed Starks pulled a guy's helmet off. They missed that. They called a face mask on
Which
them.
was so
It was
obvious.
super obvious. Like the back judge should have seen that. They correctly called a face mask on them on that play, but again, that should have been offsetting. They didn't blow the whistle on that one play, which they eventually did, and that one was correct. I don't understand the. Should we talk about the interception, the pick six that wasn't like? I'm seeing Kentucky fans complaining about that. Like I don't know what to tell you. Like the ball hit the ground, so plays dead. Like that's the end of the discussion. Like I've seen some logic is like, well, if this, then it's like, okay, but that's not what happened. Like, I'm seeing people say that Lovett's hands were under the ball, and that's not what the video shows. So I don't
Yeah,
know what
where
to
were
tell
all
you.
these people during the Alabama game
Yeah, exactly,
last year?
exactly. It was exactly that. So yeah, it is incomplete. But yeah, but the end of the
Either an
game,
incomplete or it's a first down.
right, right. The end of the game was the wildest, probably of all of them. Like Kentucky basically got a free timeout. I mean, they didn't do anything with it, but like the clock. I mean, the clock kept running after they got a first down. It should not have. The clock should have immediately stopped. Then the clock starts going when they set the ball ready to play. Like they spot the ball, move the change, clock runs. Not on the snap, on the ready. And because they ran it down to zero, then they had to reset it, and they basically had a free timeout, and it
But
was
they
still
reset it, but like then the referee was standing over the ball and they were still like
yeah.
bringing on players and stuff like that. I was like, what is going on? Like it should be 0-0 right now. Like
Yeah,
why is the clock not running? Like the referee can't stand over the ball the whole time. Like that's literally the definition of it.
yeah, yeah. It was weird. It was weird. Um, eh, I don't know.
Yeah. All right. And I'll say it like that. I feel like that this whole thing started because they called a roughing the passer on
Mm,
Jalen Walker. which was what I thought was one of the most egregious calls I'd ever seen until I saw I think was it Cal and UCLA or something like that. I can't remember what the game was. Pitt and Cal
No, it
maybe.
was Pitt in West Virginia.
Pitt and West Virginia. I knew it was some blue and yellow team. Uh, but yeah, dude, that like it was a bad weekend for the refs on the roughing the passer on the roughing the passer call because that play in that game, the guy got called for roughing the passer when the quarterback still had the ball in his hand. Like,
Mm,
how do you get called for roughing the passer when you literally sacked the quarterback?
yeah.
Jalen Walker just hit the quarterback at like 0.0000 seconds away after he threw the ball, and he still got called for roughing the passer. And he's like, what do you want?" I think even the announcers were like, what do you want him to do?"
Yeah, and the call was driving the quarterback into the ground, which you're not allowed to do. But I don't with the way that play went, like he hit him, he's off his feet. I don't know what he's supposed to do. Like literally, it was gravity.
So the call was that he was driving the quarterback into the ground.
Yes, that's the sometimes they had so for you should love this, John. It's a clarifying penalty. The the call was roughing the passer, driving the quarterback into the ground. There's like varies. So there's like the late hit version. There's different varieties of roughing the passer as to like what caused them to throw the flag. They will specify sometimes. So this one was roughing. Like this is literally, if you go back and watch it, that's the ref literally said that when he announced it. He said roughing the passer, driving the quarterback into the ground. Basically, if you hit them late, you can't like throw them into the ground. That's what it was originally written for. This
But do
one
you
is
throw them in the ground? He was
no.
just he was trying to tackle him.
That's my point. He didn't. Like this is one where I don't know what. Again, the announcers, in my opinion, were correct. Like, I don't know what he's supposed to do. And even I believe Matt Austin, the rules official, said the same thing. I believe, from what I recall.
Yeah.
So I don't know. But yes, that was the call.
Well, in the other game, the Pitt West Virginia game that I was talking about, Todd Blackledge was like, "That's a sack."
Yeah. So, yep. Yeah, it was rough on that front. Yeah, I mean that was like the third and long sack by Walker that gave them a
Yeah,
first down. So
so that play was a game-changing penalty because they would have had to punt and we would have had like it basically flipped the field,
yeah,
uh, for lack of a better description.
I don't know.
Um,
Would we have done anything with it though? I don't know.
I mean,
We didn't do
I think,
anything. We didn't do anything but a field goal out of the fumble that we got, and we
yeah.
had the ball like the 26. So
Yeah. Well, so let's go to how things like sparked for Kentucky. So we pin them down, they're inside the what 5 yard line or something like that.
mhm.
Um, I remember thinking that I was I had just like that Harrison Ford Star Wars. I got a bad feeling about this.
Mm.
Um, when we pinned them down into their end zone where Vandegrift is, basically taking the snap from his own end zone, and Dan Jackson comes off like a bolt of lightning off the edge, and I was like, "Oh my God, he's going to sack the quarterback. We're going to get a safety here," and he takes just a slightly wrong angle and
Yeah,
goes outside, and Chaz Chambliss gets held. Whatever. I mean, I could sit here and talk about Chaz on that particular play. But it really wasn't just Chaz, it was the entire defensive line got completely moved laterally left.
yeah,
And that and so Dan's decision to go outside instead of just force Vandegrift outside, even if he didn't get home, Vandegrift would have had to have moved outside of the pocket as opposed to taking a step forward into a completely wide open running lane.
yeah,
When he started taking off and was running free, I was like, "Oh my gosh, this is not good," because that's exactly what his game is, right? Like
yeah,
he's not a particularly like great passer. I mean, he had like 50% completion percentage.
mhm.
Um, but you give him that confidence boost of like, wow, they brought the house, they brought Dirty Dan in my face, and I just ran right by him. That's the
Yeah,
kind of confidence boost that an opposing quarterback needs when he's trying to prove something. It would be the equivalent of Carson Beck coming out and making a couple of quick outs to receivers just to get some confidence going. Tate Ratledge and Brett Thorson were talking about that like when you're an offensive lineman, in order to get into a groove, shout out to Mullets on the Mick, their new podcast. I was listening to them on Saturday, and he said the same thing. Like, you want to get out there and you want to get some confidence boost. You, as an offensive lineman, you want to get out there and just get some easy plays, just to get into the groove. And that's exactly what happened for Vandegrift in that particular play.
Yeah.
Offensive line, offensive line took everything that Georgia had, and Vandegrift just takes off and does what he does in the open field.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean it was a big spark. I know Vandegrift didn't have the greatest stats, but I thought he left it all in the field. Thought he played his heart out.
Yeah, dude.
Tip of the cap to him.
Yeah,
I don't know if you've seen the post game, like Kirby talking to both him and JDJ. It's pretty cool. So,
yeah, that
he doesn't burn those bridges. So,
yeah, that was cool. I mean, what he had to say about them was also equally as cool. He talked
yeah.
about Vandegrift came into his office in tears trying to when he had to transfer. So yeah, they had a good game. They gave us all we could handle.
I
You
think we
know, we talked about 2022's game with Kentucky,
yeah.
but we had a couple of clunkers in that season. So, it happens every season. Every good team has a game where things don't go according to plan, and you know what's the saying, like good teams win, great teams cover, or whatever. Well, even greater teams win their clunkers.
Yeah. Yeah. No, for sure. For sure. Yeah, I think, was this the 2022 Missouri game is kind of what you kind of hope for. Or shoot,
Yeah, we
Or
had
Auburn last year, first and there too, like
first road game.
first
Yeah.
road game, first road conference game. So I don't know. We'll see. And we had a lot of young guys out there. We've got a lot of new faces. Tate Ratledge went down. And it sounds like we're not going to have him back for multiple weeks per reports. It looked bad. It looked a lot worse to me. Like on TV, the look on his face, I was pretty dejected. There was a nice moment though. I don't know. I felt kind of like this would maybe be the kind of moment that you and I would have in a similar situation, John. I don't know if you saw the camera got a shot of like Brett Thorson consoling Tate Ratledge on the sideline. I was like,
Mhm.
the podcast co-hosts talking to each other on the sideline. That was cool.
Okay. I'm gonna let's have our Thorson minute
Hmm.
here. Um,
Okay.
Brett Thorson wants all the smoke, guys. He was joking on his podcast that he doesn't like to run. And Tate was like joking about how like he wishes that he could be a specialist because they don't have to do nearly half the stuff. He talked about like what is warm up and all that stuff. And basically Brett was talking about how he's got to stretch and
Right.
fling his legs about. Um, well, on that scuffle on his punt, on the punt
Oh,
return where was it Starks had the suplex, right?
love it.
Um,
Love it. Hit the
Lovett,
suplex.
sorry, Lovett had the suplexes, and there was that melee on the Kentucky sideline. If you go back and rewind it and look, there's a Joker all up in the Kentucky sideline, and it is Brett Thorson, who literally comes from out of nowhere, like out of nowhere, just this white streak just comes right into the center of the circle, and he's like everybody's pulling him back, and he's grabbing some Kentucky player's shirt like from the back.
Oh man. I'm
It was Aussie rules. It was Aussie rules football, I guess.
I was say I'm trying to come up with like the Crocodile Dundee style line that he could have had in the middle of that, but it's it's escaping me right now.
That's not a penalty. This is a penalty. That's not a penalty. This is a penalty.
Uh, well done. Well done. Thank you for saving that. I couldn't come up with it. Oh man. Yeah.
Um, but yeah, Brett Thorson wanted all the smoke, and they talked a lot about his streak of no punt returns, which I feel like it's gotta start to become just like this like amazing stat that nobody really talks about.
Yeah. I agree. You
But yeah, it was it was it was
you had a foreshadowing on the local kid, the Kentucky kicker. He was
I
good,
did,
man.
and you know what? I had that again. Another one of those moments where like I wish I had just shut the hell up in the precast, preview, um, because I knew that like we were gonna hear his name a lot, and I saw him come up, and when he was about to kick this 55-yard field goal, I was like, if he makes it, it's gonna be a long day. If he misses it, we'll be all right. And of
Yeah,
course, he goes out and nails a career-long field goal.
yeah,
Dude, kid's really good.
he was good.
Like he was automatic. I felt like Nostradamus talking about him on the podcast before. I had my inside sources, but dude, that kid is really good.
Yeah,
He's probably gonna be playing on Sundays.
yeah, he was good. He was good
Um, but yeah, I told you that we would hear his name.
for sure. I do want to hit on. I want your opinion on the fact that Kentucky punted the ball back to Georgia with 3 minutes to go in the game and all their timeouts, the 2 minute warning. Like I was personally surprised, like when they lined up in punt formation. I just assumed they would go for it there. Um, I've read some stuff today, kind of like in defense of Stoops' decision, but I don't know, man. You got the number one team in the country on the ropes. You've lost 14 straight to them. Kind of feels like the time to go for it. I would have gone for it, but what do I know? I just play
Are
college
we
football
talking about
25.
when Kentucky had the ball? It was their last punt, right? When Kentucky had the ball,
Yeah, they were at their 48. It was
their 48 yard.
fourth and 7, 4th and 8, something like that. Three
So
minutes to go ish.
here's my thought on it. So there was a false start that happened that pushed them into the 48 yard.
Let me clarify one thing. They were already they that false start occurred in punt formation.
Okay,
So
but
they didn't line up to go for it and get a false start and then punt. They lined up to punt, got a false start before they punted and then punted.
you don't think that they were trying to see if UGA would jump off sides?
Oh, I gotcha. They were trying to
So
draw
all
us
right,
off and get in punt formation and draw us offsides.
exactly. So let's talk about like just the overall special teams for both teams in that regard. UGA did this so many times where we lined up in situations where literally nobody in the stadium thought that they were going to snap the ball on fourth down.
Yeah, yeah,
And we get out there and you can tell when we're just pretending because I could hear Carson Beck screaming, you know, like you could hear him when the stadium is rocking,
yeah.
like, and you could hear him clapping. His claps got super loud. Like it was so obvious. Like you guys are not winning an Academy Award, guys. Like
Right.
nobody thinks that you're going to do it to the point where we did it so many times in this game to the point where I was like, Jim, there's no way we're going to snap this ball. However, if we decided to snap this ball, Kentucky was literally not ready for it. Like we
Yeah,
probably could have gotten a first down on at least one of those because Kentucky was just not ready for our like, you know, if
yeah.
you're going to disguise something, disguise it, rope a dope them. Like nobody thought that you were going to do it, but then all of a sudden you do it because they're literally just. I mean, at one point, I saw one of their defensive ends. He was just kind of like sitting on the ground almost.
That was at the very end of the game, like right before we
Yes.
punted at the very end. Our last, yeah, I think I texted both you and my dad like, well, at this point, I wish we had gone for it because like they were basically like laughing at us like we're not going to fall for your hard snap count. Like perfect time to snap it. I don't know. I mean, I guess maybe you just don't do that, but like I felt like we could have got it too. But
Yeah, it was fourth and four.
yeah, yeah. We were
It
also
was
in we were in field goal range. I would not saying that we should have kicked a field goal. We should not have. I agree. If you're gonna kick, I agree not to. You don't want to risk a blocked field goal ending the game. So, but yeah, there was that's the moment. I mean, you're right. Their defensive end was like he was like laughing and like pointing like I'm not
yeah.
falling like we're not falling for this.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like,
Yeah. But so
uh,
but you agree with the or you don't have issues with them punting it at the end when they did?
I mean, I guess that the the flip side of it was so they punted it.
I mean, you
They punted it and we took it over on our own 15-yard line.
yeah.
So you're basically banking on the fact that you have almost 3 minutes to get something done there.
Yeah. And they did have
We
all
had
three
just
timeouts and the 2 minute warning. So they basically had four timeouts.
we had just held them to like this is where we should have had the Kirby Death March.
Hmm.
Um, but we had a 3 play minute and 36-second drive, the drive before.
Okay. Yeah, yeah.
Um, so they had shut us down in that one. And if you're in that situation where, there's no way Georgia's going to throw the ball here, I think that he probably had I mean, that's the way the game goes. Like
Yeah, yeah.
this particular game went is that Kentucky thought that they could contain our offense to get the ball back with some time left to go because we were so bad in the game.
I will say too, and again, I know the Bobo haters are out, and like I'm not gonna, whatever. But at the end of the game, I feel like he and the team did the opposite of what they thought we were gonna do. Like, because you're Mark Stoops, you're thinking Georgia's gonna try to run the clock out. They're not gonna risk throwing the ball because they want to force us to take our timeouts. They're gonna run every play, and we didn't. I mean, we came out throwing. I mean, Beck ran play action, and we had it a 30 something yard pass to Dominic Lovett. Like that was huge. I mean, that was offensively probably the play of the game. To spark that. We still ended up having to punt, but that was it. That was a huge play. So kudos there. Honestly I was shocked. Like when Beck ran play action, I was like, oh man, we're throwing? Like really? I was shocked. So and I mean, and we needed it. We needed it. I mean, we pulled that out of the bag.
That
Um,
was the Kirby Death March.
yeah, yeah,
8 plays, 45 yards, 2 minutes and 49 seconds, basically ended the game.
yeah,
And
yeah,
Stoops is like, ah, crap, you got me again.
yeah. So all right. Well,
I guess here's the other thing though, like, for or against it. Like, so let's say that you did get the ball back. Like, let's say that they held them. You're still gonna have to march. Let's say that they took a minute off the clock. Let's say they would have had like a minute left had things gone
the way they wanted, the way
the
they
way that
thought.
they wanted it. They stopped them. They
Yeah,
they called timeout. They reserved the play or whatever. You're still going to have to throw the ball, which they hadn't done particularly well.
yeah.
Like I don't know.
Yeah. Well, all they had to do was get in within Rayner's range, which, as we saw, was deep. So
That's true.
all they needed
Yeah,
was a field goal.
I imagine Stoops will probably be stewing over that decision
Yeah. Yeah.
for a while.
I don't know how much we wanted to get into this, but I do want to at least mention it because I've seen it online and we heard about it from Brett. I feel like Brett will be upset if we don't mention. It is odd that the Redcoats weren't there. I don't know what all is going on, but I know like the road dogs that travel were sending us stuff saying, "Where's the band?" The band wasn't at this game, which I think one of the things I texted to you is that was just adds to the manufactured adversity conspiracy theory, manufacturing adversity by not having Krypton fanfare play at the start of the fourth quarter. So I don't know. I imagine the band will be in Tuscaloosa in 2 weeks, but I think that's send the band. Send the band. They should be there.
Yeah, it's the it's the UGA version of the lone gunman theory.
Yeah, yeah,
There had to have been more than one facet of manufactured adversity.
yeah. Uh,
There, all right, okay. So I don't typically go on the road games, right? Like I'm
mhm.
barely able to go to the handful of games at home, but I guess I didn't realize that this was a thing. Like there have been some games in the past where we have not sent a a band presence to away games. I guess this
Yeah,
is just like this is foreign concept to me because I thought that that was an always on situation. Like I recognize you don't take the full band, and I didn't realize because Brett said that we send a full band to some of these away games.
yeah,
Um, I didn't realize I didn't realize that we had some different approaches for different games, but I always thought that there was at least a small kind of like the traveling squad. Like I
mhm.
realized that financially it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to bring the whole band or whatever. Um, but like to bring no band to an SEC game
Yeah,
seems really, really, really short-sighted. So if you were a person that has connections into the athletic association, because my understanding is that the reason the reason that there is a band or no band or whatever is 100% on the athletic association.
yeah. Like they make the call of
They
when
make the decision
who
on
goes when. Yeah,
who's going when and where. Like, but you know, by and large, a lot of these guys at home, and just to be a part of the band is a lot of them go into their own personal finances to be a part of the program or whatever. But to go on the road, it's on the athletic association.
Yeah.
And to me, to be a program that is recruiting at the level that it does, winning at the level it does, generating income at the level that it does, this should be an absolute no-brainer to have a band presence for SEC games. And when we have our traditional rivalries, when we have a top 10 match, like I would argue that there needs to be a full band at those games.
Yeah. And I'm trying to remember. Like I don't go to road games like I used to. I at this point I don't know. I guess my hard to remember. It feels like the band was always there at the road games I went to back in the day in school, but I could be wrong. I
Mhm.
could probably go through the list with Brett. He could probably tell us tell me which games there was or wasn't that I went to back in school. But
Yeah,
I
I
will say
mean,
like there's nothing, and I remember thinking this like in school. Like I will say the Red Coat Band when you're on the road is huge. Like it makes a big. I'm not going to try to quantify how big of an impact it makes for the guys in the field, but as a fan, it does make a huge deal. Like when you hear your fight song playing in another school stadium, like that,
yeah,
it means something, and like it fires the fan base up. So
it does.
there's no, and again, like fourth quarter came when we did the fourth light up South Bend, like at Notre Dame, like it was amazing. And that didn't happen in Lexington on Saturday. I don't, I don't get it, but
That was the thing. That was the trigger, I think, that kind of started this whole thing was that people were trying to light up Sanford, but realized that it wasn't happening.
yeah,
That
yeah,
Krypton wasn't playing. So as a university, you build these traditions, and then when we go on the road, that tradition dies.
right, yeah,
F that.
yeah.
Sorry, Carter.
So, yeah. So it was weird. I don't know. I guess we'll see. We'll continue to follow this story. Track the Red Coat Band. We'll have to add our Red Coat Band tracker going forward.
Yeah, Josh, come on, bud, make it happen.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, I think overall, like I know, like we were all melting down on Twitter on Saturday during the game. Although I try to keep stuff just to texting. Like, didn't really tweet much from the podcast account during the game. But usually the first tweet once the game starts is after the first touchdown, and it took a while for that to happen. So yeah, but I think the bottom line is, like you said, we didn't play well and we won. You win your clunkers. We literally are in the midst of the longest regular season win streak in the history of the Southeastern Conference. It's not too bad.
Yeah. Um, I'd rather that streak continue than to have the opposite, even if it means beating Kentucky 13-12 on the road.
Uh, oh, before I forget, 'cause I was about to forget this. Coaches over unders, not a good week for us. Shocking, based on how we thought everything. But you maintain a slight lead. You have a one pick lead over me. So I actually made up a little bit of ground. But you still maintain that lead. So, Coach, thank you for checking those as always.
Yeah, brutal, brutal day for me.
Hey, you hit the over. You're hedging when I said the over on the 2.5 sacks, and you stuck with me. That one decision,
That
John,
one decision.
that kept your lead in place. So the strategy paid off. Uh,
Never underestimate the ability to strategize coaches over unders early in the
oh,
season.
so good. So good. I guess program note, like no game this week. I don't think we'll do another episode this week, although there's been talks of maybe we may hop in some other Twitter spaces or something like that folks are hosting. So if that is happening, Josh and Chad have their Twitter space every Wednesday night. I would always recommend attending that. Follow Dog Stats on Twitter. He always announces when that'll be. So going to try to make that Wednesday night. If anything else pops up, we'll let folks know.
Yes. And then we have a week to recover. Good Lord, we have some injuries. Couldn't have gone. I guess it could always be worse, but certainly could have been a lot better on the injury front. That was a goal for me was to get out of here without some injuries, and that did not happen.
No, did not.
I mean, Carson hurt his what was it, the C joint or whatever, AC joint
Yeah, like
on his
non-throwing.
non-throwing shoulder. So
Yeah,
watch that space moving forward because he looked uncomfortable at the end of the game.
yeah, yeah. We will definitely need to listen out uh, in Kirby's upcoming press conferences, and then check that the injury report or the availability report. I'll have to make sure to review that next time.
Oh yeah, yeah. I guess we should have reviewed it this time. We didn't see 120 like probable.
It was way smaller than I expected. It was actually just like the guys that were going to be out and the guys that were questionable. Like it was like a seemed pretty legit. So,
It was legit. It wasn't.
although to
It wasn't.
much to Chip Tower's chagrin, it looks like suspensions are not on that list. It is a does appear to be an injury.
Yeah. Can we take the keys away from everybody for a week or two?
Mark Richt was onto something with those scooters, man. Yeah,
Yeah.
ride your scooter.
Right.
Leave the car at home. Uber or
Yeah.
Lyft,
I
not a
was just about to
sponsor.
say. I was just about to say Uber, Uber it.
Yeah, not a sponsor yet. Well, cool.
I I don't think I've got anything else on this one, man. Survive and advance. All the goals are still on the table.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Hey, better to do this in this game. Get a bit of a wake up call. Get the smelling salts. For the team. Got 2 weeks to focus on the next one because it's gonna be a big.
Mm. Yep, those guys are going to become. They're going to becoming angry. They're going to be gunning for the record for our. I'm sure that they're going to be drilled in. It's going to be drilled into their head that we have the most consecutive wins in the SEC history. That's going to be drubbed into their head over and over again.
Yeah, yeah.
Anything else?
I don't think so. I think we've talked about the 13-12 win as much as we can.
One thing that we didn't talk about. Did you have a bourbon? Did you do Kentucky bourbon?
During the game.
Yeah,
No, I did have I had a Weller Special Reserve as my nightcap victory bourbon.
nice.
Yeah.
Maybe that was the problem.
I s-
About halfway through at halftime, I was like, man, I haven't had a bourbon yet. I need to get one going.
actually usually don't drink bourbon during the game. After is that's more standard for me. I'll have like a beer or something. Yeah, which I did. I did do that. I did have a beer on the porch while watching. So, yeah,
Well, my game day adjustment is going to be to get the bourbon flowing early.
nice. Nice. I definitely changed hats during the game twice. I will admit that.
Oh yeah, I saw your the tweet. Apparently, a lot of us are in the same boat. I incidentally did not change,
Okay.
but yeah,
Well,
I was not one of the ones that changed because I'm I'm of the opinion that that has no impact and no bearing on the game. But I respect it.
it has no impact whatsoever. If it happens out of frustration with me sometimes.
Yes. Ah, I gotta go
uh,
change.
I gotta go
I
change.
had the thought, but I was like, nope, we're gonna pull it out. I guess I was kind of like Bobo in the game plan. Like, nope, we're gonna stick to it. This is manufactured adversity. We're gonna work through it, and we're gonna get out of here. We're gonna figure this out.
You knew that your game day fit was going to work from what you saw on film,
Yes,
and it
yes.
did. You were right. You were right.
And
Too good.
good
Cool.
times. All right, let's turn the page, and we're gonna get into bye week. Well, Jim. There will be football on this weekend, and Georgia will not be among them.
Yeah.
So let's use this weekend to figure out our game day attire and our game day situations for Alabama, and we'll be tanned, rested, and ready for the Tiders.
Sounds like a plan.
All right, man. Well, it was fun texting. I'm glad that that game is over though,
Yeah.
and go dogs.
Go dogs.